Hi, everybody. This is episode 85 of our podcast, Artificial Intelligence and Cybersurgery. This is the official podcast for our journal, Artificial Intelligence Surgery. My name is Dr. Andrew Gomes. I'm here with Dr. Vincent Grasso, and he'll introduce our next guest. I do want to point out that Artificial Intelligence Surgery, the journal, is the first and maybe still the only journal that's focused exclusively on all things AI and surgery. So, Vincent, as I steal a little bit of your catchphrase, let's see what you can do introducing our next
No
guest.
worries. It's our pleasure. Amilcar, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join with us. Our audience is very interested in you. You're a physician, but you also are involved in business at Siemens, right? So you've made a transition. So I'm sure they'd like to learn about that journey, and anything that you're doing touching AI, of course, is of interest to us. So welcome to the podcast.
So, yeah,
Thank
so
you.
I've been really looking forward to this podcast for a while, Amilcar. Um, Vincent, you told me something about his name that I did not know. Can you is this true, Amilcar?
I mean, I think Hamilcar was the father of Hannibal, right?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
right.
so cool, so cool.
Yeah,
I,
it's
did not- I
cool.
and I majored in archaeological studies at Yale, so shame on me for forgetting that. Vincent schooled me. Oh my goodness. So, so I met Amilcar in Porto, in Portugal,
Yeah,
correct?
in
Right.
the
So we
EIES
were at an
meeting.
EAES like a winter meeting, and he gave an amazing presentation. He asked like, I always feel like I'm ahead of the curve when I do my presentations, and then of course he spoke up, and I'm like, that guy's ahead of the curve even further than I am. So can you give us a little bit, I always like to hear a little bit like where you're born, where you grew up, where you did your training, and then we'll transition into what you're doing now. And obviously, we want to hear how
Yeah,
you made that transition to work with Siemens. So please let's start off by telling everybody where you were born and things like that.
yeah. So I was born in Mexico City, and I went to medical school there in the National University of Mexico. Back then, when I joined the university, there was a program that was a special program that only from the 30 groups per generation, two were part of this special program where you have added, so you compress the whole program in 70%, and then you have to do mandatory research with a qualified researcher from first year of medical school until the last year. And actually, in Mexico, you do the 6 years social service, which generally you go to a small village in the middle of nowhere and you are the family doctor for that village for a year. But 1% of the people, of the medical students that finish, can stay in the city and do research, and that's what I did. So I was very research focused. I was doing a lot of microsurgery. That took me to Barcelona.
I have to interrupt you because the
Yeah,
news that Mexico now has universal health care, I think is huge news. So let me
it's
hear
amazing.
your thoughts on that. I'm so proud of Mexico. So please give me your thoughts on that or any insights.
I, I'm a little bit biased because my family has been participant of the left wing movements since I have memory, and then of course I see what the current government is doing and compared to what previous governments were doing. And this is the first time Mexico has, well, not the first time, but this period that started with the previous administration, it's the first time that Mexico has governments doing things for the people, not just to enrich cronies, but actually for the people. Nothing is perfect, nothing is fully solved, but I think it's clear that they are going in the right direction, and universal healthcare is clearly an important thing. I see it. My parents live in Mexico. Now I'm far more confident of them being there, knowing that they have access to good quality medicine. So
It's so wonderful. Right, because then you went to Barcelona. Spain, of course,
yeah,
already has universal access. So what did you
yeah.
do there?
So then I went. I started a master degree on clinical research. I didn't finish because I entered the residence I just could not support myself. I was working in private practice, helping some plastic surgeons, and but I needed to start the residence because I don't have rich parents. So they were already doing enough supporting me the first year there. So I didn't get into the plastic surgery residence that I wanted because I needed to be the top 10 among 30,000, and I was not top 10 among 30,000. But I went to digestive surgery. I also like laparoscopy. I was always very technology focused. During the residence, I also joined a research program from Hospital Clínico with Professor Antonio Lassi, who back then, this was 2008, the times of notes.
Yeah.
We were doing flexible endoscopy and trying to figure out how to do things. That's when I started making prototypes to solve things. I made an overscope with a hinge
So
to
you
try
must
to give
must have
a
worked with Patricia also.
with Patricia Sila. No, I
No?
didn't met her when she was there. She went there contemporarily, but
You didn't
I was
overlap.
not in the clinical side in the hospital clinic. I was just in this lab. I only dealt with one attendee there that was doing this research. So I was there when Patricia Sila was there developing the transanal approach, but I never had the pleasure to meet her until much later when I was in IRCAD.
Yeah.
So I finished my residence and I was like looking what to do, and I was always interested in learning how to take these prototypes that I was doing into an actual product that will reach patients. And by mere chance, I was reading IRCAD e-journal that they had back then, and there was a opening for a fellowship with Liz Swanstrom based on biodesign from Stanford, but focused only on image-guided and minimally invasive innovation around those topics. And I applied. I fortunately was accepted by Lee. And then there I developed, actually, last week was the first in man for the product I developed there.
Nice.
It was just a hemostatic clip for flexible endoscopy.
Yeah.
So I was there 2.5 years. I finished the fellowship. And while I was trying to go back to Spain to develop a program for image-guided interventions and interventional endoscopy, but made by surgeons, and every hospital I wrote in Spain, I wrote to many of the largest tertiary care, and all of them told me, "No, we're not interested in that. That's not done by us. That's done by gastroenterologists or by radiologists, not by us." And while I was looking for that, I was offered by Siemens. They wanted someone who helped them to develop precisely this image-guided interventions by surgeons, and I started working there, thinking it might be 1 or 2 years, and then I will be successful, and everybody will adopt it, and I will go back to clinics. It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
I have only moved further towards, I started in clinical marketing, then I started sharing clinical marketing and product definition, and now I'm fully focused in product definition for connecting or imaging or large capital imaging systems like CT, MR, or ultrasound with the devices that deliver the therapy, like ablation or Y90, these kind of things. I work in the department that develops the software to connect those two things.
So Vincent, Amilcar also writes software. So you guys actually have a similar background. So Vincent, you want to just bring Amilcar up to speed a little bit with, how you transitioned from surgery to more of the industry development side of things?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we share a lot of common things. I started as an electrical engineering student first because I was, as a young boy, designing circuits. So I was more of a gearhead, a hardware guy. And then I transitioned out of engineering into pre-medical studies. So I went down a medical track, and then I did surgery, like you did a surgical residency. And then I went to Yale, where I almost got exposed to Andrew. He's younger than I was.
As
And
as he was leaving, like I was walking in.
He walked in, and I did a minimally invasive surgery, fellowship, and a medical informatics fellowship there, on I would say, we were just breaking into a real online experience as the .NET platform started to develop and bandwidth got better, processors got faster. We were able to do more digital things. And then I kind of left full-time surgery and transitioned into the business IT side of the equation. So I'm a software architect. I live in that realm and build platforms and design things working with Andrew. So I live more on the IT business side of the equation than I don't do surgery any longer. But I have the
Me
expertise
neither.
in training,
No,
like you.
either does Amilcar, right?
Yeah, so we're kind of similar that way. And are you able to build things at Siemens? I mean, are you on the business development side or the product development side?
On the product development side,
Wow.
Because of my role, I also get pulled towards business development discussions when they are assessing some technology because I have this clinical expertise.
Sure.
I also get pulled towards the innovation side, so pre-development of core technologies, also to help them. But my main focus is product development and now specifically software development.
So
Actually, that's what brought me to AI, because
sure,
everybody around me are either software engineers or people with extensive experience around that. Most of them are PhDs in something, and I am the only non-technical person. Also, the only one that doesn't have a PhD yet. So,
but you're the only MD too, probably.
yeah, that's not the only one in the company, but the only one at least in my team.
Yeah.
And I started tinkering with AI actually over a year ago. Over a year ago, it was not yet possible for someone like me to build any software that would actually build. That was just not possible. But in December, it was kind of the breakthrough with Codex 5.1. And I started using first with Cursor, like on my personal computer, separate from Siemens, just to learn. And then now I've been using Codex app for the past 4 months. And it's astonishing the development from being able to make in 3 weeks a DICOM viewer that can open a CT, and now I'm like actually implementing segmentation algorithms from scratch, and I'm adapting total segmentator so I can use it in a Mac in my own app.
It's beautiful. He showed me like what he
amazing.
developed, and it was it was beautiful already. Yeah, yeah. Keep explaining it to Vincent. Yeah.
So I started doing this because I wanted. So we, as the product definition team, generally the working mode is to create all the materials so the developers can A, understand the problem, B, understand what is the workflow that we imagine, and then we create these PowerPoints and Figma flows and all these things. But then they need to interpret everything we say,
sure,
and implement it. And then there are these loops. Obviously, when the developers are already implementing, they have a huge overhead of things beyond writing the code. They have to write the tests, do the unit tests, write all the documentation. So their cycles are slow, and we don't help in any way with the ambiguity that we bring by not having perfectly defined products. But that's also the result that the more complex a product is, the less you can predefine it and have everything covered. You need to build it, test it, iterate it, get users to test it, give you feedback.
Sure.
And if we do that on the developer side, well, we have then development cycles that are of years. What I see as an advantage or the promise, and that's what we're trying to get the capability internally, is if we build prototypes that are nearly indistinguishable from the product, that not only are able to offload the files and interact with them, and that then customers can test it not in a Figma prototype that everything is perfect, but in something that actually is running on a computer. My hypothesis is that this will end the ambiguity, so end the translation costs from concept to implementation, and then the engineers just need to take our likely suboptimal code, harden it, iterate it until it's production grade code, but there is no changes in the design or any ambiguity on how it should behave. And that's why I started with this. And I just, every month, that they bring new models that are much better. And what I could not do 3 weeks ago, now I can, with the newer models, I can specify this is my aim, and it will just work until it can do that. And I think that's a revolution, because right now I'm thinking, how can I contribute more? But in the future, what I think is that these surgeons who are close to the unmet needs, that will be able to prototype these things if industry is able to bring a platform that enables them not to go from I produce a prototype, then I make a startup, and I go little by little, and then in 10 years we have a product. But you find an unmet need, I give you the platform that allows you to prototype that, validate it clinically, and then we can if that's validated clinically, then we can think of how can we make that a product that is fully validated. That's what I dream. Obviously, these are not plans that are made already in any company, as far as I know. But I think that's where we're going with this. I think this is the advantage. It's not faster coding, it's enabling domain experts to say what they want in a way that the domain experts in coding can understand and make it work reliably.
I mean, it's music to my ears. Andrew, when I had first started talking to you, Amilcar, is we may be two of the only surgeons in the world that can actually write a very complex software requirement specification document, which is an IEEE standard, which is the combination of a business plan and the specs that you want your software developers to build on. Generally, you need like a bunch of people, but we're surgeon, developer, people, so we don't need a lot of people to write specs, right? We shortcut that whole crazy long cycle, and that's where things are. So moving all that stuff upstream, not taking 9 months to build prototypes, is disruptive, right? That's the uniqueness. The guests on our show, we are those people that can do that. The challenge is people are not happy when you can do that, Hamilcar, because there's about 100 people at Siemens that do that, and then you just shortcut them all, and you show up with a document and you build a prototype, and they're like, wait a minute, that's what we do, and then you just, right? That's what happens. You get really disruptive, which is a good thing for Andrew and I. We like that.
Yeah, but this is a big problem with AI, right? If everyone starts not having a job, actually that's one of the things I like about Europe, or even I saw in China, even they tried to replace somebody because they had with AI, and the government stepped in and said you can't fire that guy just because AI can do his job. Like we have really hit that moment in time where we have to like slow down and stop people losing their jobs, just for the world economy. Like this is a big disruption is good, but at this level, as you said, if 100 people now lose their jobs in Siemens, 100 maybe 1,000 people aren't paying taxes, it really starts to influence how the world works, and it's kind of terrifying.
This is where I think Europe and the US are extremely different.
Oh yes.
Because in the US, when a company feels that they need to grow rapidly, you see how they start hiring left and right. And in the moment they feel that they don't need that much people, it's very easy to just cut them off and toss them away like if they were disposable.
Yeah.
In Europe, you cannot do that. Particularly in Germany, where workers are part of the council of companies, you cannot do that. So,
good thing.
Our main pain has been you cannot hire so much people whenever you have an idea. Your headcount is one of your main limiting factors. And this is where AI, instead of helping us prescinde of people, it can help us, in my opinion, a 65,000 persons company like Siemens Healthineers to work like a 600,000 persons. And we have backlogs that go for years of things, good ideas that we have already developed and that we need to implement.
Yeah.
What I hope is that AI will help us ship a lot more products with the same people that we have. So we keep our job security, we can just have a lot better output and then impact positively patients. I don't get paid more by doing more. That's on our side. We don't have this kind of big bonus at the end of the year if we did. I get essentially paid more or less the same every year, and everyone in Siemens is like that, except salespeople. They get obviously more by selling more. But on the side of development, it's the same. We do these things because we are. We're obviously well compensated, but we believe that this is what should be done. And I think that AI, it's a huge enabler, and that precisely the way Europe has thought things, which for years has been seen like, oh, this is not leading to real development or as quick development as the US. Now is where I think that this will reverse the position, because while in the US we see that they are laying off people left and right, we don't see that in Europe.
I'm part of the Compass AI, this EU grant looking at guidelines of for the safe implementation of AI in Europe, in the EU. And there was somebody there from the EU, and like I was talking with someone, and we were complaining that all these regulations, they're slowing us down. What about other countries that they'll innovate faster than us? And she I wish I have to remember her name, but she's like, I think our healthcare is pretty good in Europe. And she was exactly talking about what you're talking about. All of this regulation, actually, it's there for there are many layers to the onion of why it's there. And just maintenance of societal cohesion is like not a small detail. Just the fact that they have universal health care, all these things that America has ignored for decades I think you're right. It's going to bite. I didn't think of that, but it's going to bite. I'm worried it's going to bite the U.S. on the what, because changes are coming, and I don't know about you guys, but it's starting to concern me. I'll put it to you that way. Yeah. So let me see here.
I think it's concerning.
No, it is, but I do think that EU is actually more poised. And I read this interesting thing that like the EU doesn't necessarily make a lot of new innovation, social media, it doesn't have Facebook, it doesn't have Apple or what have you. But what they do have is, probably the largest economic market and regulations. Like when Apple, they told Apple, like, look, you need to have a USB-C on all your phones. Otherwise, you can't sell in Europe. And guess what? So what did Apple do? They changed, all of their USB-Cs around the world. So, Europe is really the leader of regulation, and people are still following Europe. That's really, and the argument of this paper was that the power of Europe, which, someone in Germany and someone in France, it's hard for me to admit this, but is regulation. There is a need for regulation, unfortunately. And when there's no regulation, or at least minimal regulation in other countries, we're going to see what's going to happen, and it's not going to be pretty.
Just see it from the incentive point of view. In the US, the incentive of all companies, of all investors, is how do I concentrate more wealth in my hands?
To the shareholders.
It's not even creating value in most cases. Like, see, Facebook. What's the societal value it creates? It's a money printing machine. But is it making anybody's life better? You can say, okay, yeah, the publicity, targeted publicity.
You don't have to argue. We all agree with you. It's not. But go ahead.
It is mostly concentrating wealth into few hands.
Yeah.
In Europe, you don't see these companies because regulations avoid these companies that can really concentrate
Wealth.
Why are 7 companies concentrating 30% of the Fortune 500? Because that's the design of that system. In Europe, it's designed in a way that it's still capitalist, it's still pro-business, but it slows you down and adds enough friction so nobody concentrates everything, and then the distribution. The life of the average European person is likely better than the life of the average American person, particularly if you are in the bottom half, much better. But of course, we don't have the Elon Musks and Satya Nadellas of the world.
But you know we're controlling. You know, Europe controls regulation, and you have to follow the rules if you want to sell here. You know, regardless. So we're already longer than we wanted to. You know, Amilcar, did I invite you yet to Paris? Because you need to come to Paris to the Aeons meeting July 2nd, Artificial Intelligence Organization for the Next Generation of Surgeons. Did I send you an invite? Because
No,
if you're, you know, I think, you know, we need you to come. We need companies like Siemens there. So I'm going to see if I have enough money to invite you because I'm going to actually review tomorrow how much money I have left to invite people. But I need you to join Aons to be a member. So I'm going to email you that because
that would be nice.
you know we definitely. I mean, Vincent, you agree? We definitely need someone like this in Aons.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So look, in the interest of time, I think we're gonna sign off. It's been we're gonna have to have you on again because you're obviously
Thank you.
a fountain of information. So um, Amilcar, I'll let you speak, and then Vincent, please close this out, and then maybe we'll stay on for the last few minutes and talk without the recording. Okay, guys?
Yeah. So, how to close this?
No, you don't
I,
have to close. Vincent has to close. Any final thoughts? If you have
okay.
no final thoughts, we'll
Yeah.
just go to Vincent. Don't worry.
Final thoughts. I'm sure the technology is in the worst state. It will be ahead of us. It's already impressive. It will only get more. And I think that our job likely is to teach surgeons that they can also participate in the creation of the technologies they use. And it's true more than ever. And if we are able to create platforms to do this, I'm sure we will be able to benefit more patients. And the logic has to be, how do we benefit the most people rather than how do we make the most money? That's my personal opinion, at least.
Great. I love it. I love it.
That's
It's
a great
exciting.
great closing statement. Thank you so much, Amilcar. It was our pleasure and privilege having you on. And again, Andrew, our 85th podcast. We're closing in on 100, and we look forward to having you back on to discuss the exciting stuff you're doing as a surgeon and software architect, software developer, you know, business entity at Siemens. So thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
All right. So wait here.
Ciao.